Imagine a man, late 30s, good job, decent salary, a relationship he worked hard to keep, an apartment he's proud of. From the outside, his life looks assembled correctly, like he followed the instructions, put the pieces in the right order, and ended up where he was supposed to. But at night, when everything is quiet, he lies awake with a feeling he can't quite name. Not sadness, not depression. Something more like emptiness, a low hum beneath everything, the sense that something is missing, but he has no idea what. So he does what most people do. He sets a new goal, a promotion, a bigger apartment, a better version of his relationship. He tells himself, once I get there, it'll feel different. It doesn't. And here's the part nobody talks about. He is not the exception. He is the rule. Most people live this way their entire lives, chasing the next thing, reaching it, feeling the brief warmth of it, and then returning almost immediately to the same quiet dissatisfaction they started with. Why does this keep happening? Why do people get everything they were told to want and still feel like something is fundamentally wrong? That's what this video is about. We live in a time obsessed with happiness. There are entire industries built around it: self-help books, productivity systems, therapy apps, motivational content. Everyone is either chasing happiness or selling a shortcut to it. And yet, by most measures, people are more anxious, more dissatisfied, and more burned out than ever before. Something isn't adding up. The problem isn't that people aren't trying hard enough. The problem is that most people are chasing the wrong thing, and they don't even know it because nobody told them what happiness actually is. They were only ever shown what it's supposed to look like. There's a difference, and that difference is everything. In the 1970s, psychologists Brickman and Campbell introduced a concept that should be taught in every school, but somehow never is. They called it the Hedonic Treadmill. The idea is simple and brutal. Human beings have a baseline level of happiness. When something good happens, a raise, a new relationship, a big achievement, we feel a surge. We feel elevated. But over time, without exception, we return to that baseline. The surge fades, and so we need the next thing to feel it again. The treadmill keeps moving. We keep running. We never actually get anywhere. Think about the last time you really wanted something: a new phone, a job offer, a person's attention. Remember how certain you were that getting it would change how you felt. And then you got it. And for a moment, maybe it did. But then, slowly, it became normal. Background. Just another thing you have now. That's not weakness, that's biology. Our brains are wired to adapt. It's a survival mechanism. The problem is that we've built an entire life philosophy on top of a system that was never designed to deliver lasting happiness. We keep upgrading the inputs. The brain keeps recalibrating. The baseline stays the same. And we wonder why we feel stuck. Marcus Aurelius was once the most powerful man in the known world. He had access to pleasures most people can't even imagine. And yet, he spent his private journals, his meditations, not celebrating what he had, but wrestling with a single question: how do I stay undisturbed? Not happy in the way we mean it today. Undisturbed, grounded, at peace. That distinction matters more than most people realize. The Stoics observed something that modern psychology is only now catching up to: that the source of our suffering is not what happens to us, but what we believe we need in order to be okay. Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and had nothing by conventional standards, put it plainly: men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. Read that again slowly. The event itself, the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the goal that slipped away, None of that is the actual source of your pain. The source is the belief that you needed it, that without it, something is wrong with you or your life. This is where most people get lost. They believe their dissatisfaction is a signal that something external needs to change, so they change external things. And the dissatisfaction returns, wearing a different face. The treadmill keeps moving. What Epictetus is pointing to is something far more radical. The problem isn't your circumstances. The problem is the relationship between your mind and your circumstances. Here's where it gets worse. There's a second layer to this, one that previous generations didn't have to deal with at the scale we do now. Arthur Schopenhauer, the 19th century philosopher, known for his unflinching honesty about human nature, argued that happiness is less about gaining things and more about the quiet absence of suffering, not excitement, not achievement, just a calm, undisturbed existence. He believed one of the greatest threats to that calm was something deeply embedded in human psychology, the compulsion to measure ourselves against others. He wrote that the primary source of human misery isn't poverty or illness or failure. It's comparison. Now take that insight and drop it into 2026, where the average person spends several hours a day scrolling through a curated highlight reel of other people's lives. Every scroll is an unconscious comparison. Every comparison quietly recalibrates your sense of where you stand. Someone else's vacation makes your life feel smaller. Someone else's success makes your progress feel insufficient. Someone else's relationship makes yours feel ordinary. None of it is real in any meaningful sense. The vacation photo doesn't show the credit card debt. The success post doesn't show the years of failure behind it. The relationship picture doesn't show what happens after the camera is put down. But the brain doesn't care about context. It just registers, they have something you don't. And back on the treadmill you go. Schopenhauer's advice was to turn inward, radically, to stop measuring your inner life against other people's outer appearances, because that game has no finish line and no winners, only people who haven't yet realized they're playing it. So what actually works? Not a productivity system, not a morning routine, not another goal to chase. What works, what the Stoics, the Taoists, and a growing body of modern psychology all point toward, is a fundamental shift in where you place your sense of stability. Most people place it outside themselves, in outcomes, in how others see them, in whether life is going according to plan. This means their inner state is always at the mercy of things they can't fully control. What the Stoics suggest is relocating that stability inward, specifically to the one thing you always have access to, your own response, your own values, your own way of meeting whatever life puts in front of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't passive acceptance. It's not giving up on goals or ambitions. It's recognizing that the peace you're looking for was never hiding inside any of those things. It was always a product of how you relate to your life, not what your life contains. The man from the beginning of this video isn't unhappy because he has the wrong things. He's unhappy because he was taught to look for himself in things that could never hold him. That's the trap. And the exit isn't a new goal. It's a new question. Not, what do I need to be happy? But, what am I assuming I need that I actually don't? That question, asked honestly, is where something real begins to open up. Most people will never be happy, not because life is cruel, and not because they're doing something wrong, but because they're playing a game that was never designed for them to win. The treadmill keeps moving. The comparisons keep coming. The baseline keeps resetting. But some people, at some point, step off, not because they stopped caring about life, but because they stopped outsourcing their peace to it. The Stoics called this eudaimonia, a flourishing that comes not from what you have, but from who you are in relation to what happens to you. That's not the happiness society sells, but it might be the only kind that actually lasts.